What we're trying to reference here is like this loop happens, but it's kind of like an infinity symbol. And it's like negativity can come around to a positive resolve, even though if it's not a solution, it can still move that around. And like you'll go through that positive loop and you'll probably come back to a negative one at some point.
It's a massive cycle.
Hello and welcome to another vlog on YouTube and podcast on Spotify by the Fit Minds podcast. Coach Mariah Jean here and Coach Chloe Jane is back in the house.
Woohoo! Second time in a row.
How good?
Don't get used to it. I'm kidding.
Honestly, I feel like Chloe and I just take it in turns of just shit being like hitting us, and we're just like, we're good. Have you seen that reel of like motherhood and like, you know, embracing the waves or whatever, and it's like the waves and it's like this big fucking
yeah like this little dude in a tiny little boat.
Just so accurate, and it really is on point for this podcast topic, turning negative thoughts into positive actions / change. This one, I guess, like, you know, I've done lots of different podcasts on self-sabotage and blah 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 blah, but this one is really, we haven't really done one together.
No.
We've done stuff on like what to do when shit hits a fan, and you know, like when life doesn't go as planned or whatever, but not one together where we've shared our, I guess, like personal approach in navigating a negative thought process, and even how maybe even recently we've both been able to turn that around, and to encourage our clients and potential future clients and followers to do the same. So I guess what we're trying to get at this podcast is like, you know, we've all been in that position, even on a daily basis, where we have those negative thoughts creeping in, and it can be about anything. It can be about like, I can't be bothered getting up and making my breakfast.
That's a daily occurrence, being like, the fact that I have to spend 5 minutes cooking my eggs. Yeah,
it's an inconvenience,
like,
right?
Give me a McDonald's freaking...
Yeah. One of those little muffins.
Yeah, McMuffins.
They're great. They're actually really good.
They're actually not too bad. They're pretty good for calories.
But I know what you mean, like wanting all these different swaps. And certainly, have you noticed that when we work with particular clients, that they'll come on board and they'll kind of be, it's either they're like an absolute basket of this negativity, or they are so positive that they are like drowning themselves in, I need to be better, do better. Yeah.
For sure. I feel like it is very tricky to find that happy medium balance between being, I want to say, like optimistic.
Yes.
And then just downright horrible to yourself.
And almost like that high achiever mentality and not knowing when to pause and take a break and everything. But I think even, for the purpose of this podcast, I think it's like I've had thousands of conversations with clients over 10 years, right? And something I see as a recurring theme is a version of myself in other people that I saw when I was younger, which was very negative, incredibly negative.
And it's tricky too. I feel like when you're in that moment, you can be quite oblivious to how negative you are to yourself.
Because you just see it as like reality.
Yeah, you're like, okay, well, I have been a shit beep of a human. You know, like, oh, I didn't do that. Like...
Or even life circumstances too, like, you know, this has happened and this bill is due and this is this and, you know, the weather's shit. And so it's like, then it kind of compiles. Yeah.
And it's not until someone goes, hey, pat yourself on the back, like, I'm doing a fucking good job, that you go, oh crap.
I'm on the hate train.
I've been really horrible to myself.
And do you think a lot of this too, like negative thought patterns and thinking, can just lead to more negative thinking and more negative behavior?
You have the tendency to isolate when you're in those moments. And when we isolate, it's, you then have all the time in the world to be in your head and have all these thoughts.
You're almost parking yourself into a corner.
I found personally, like, now that obviously I don't come see you every day, and I have all this time at home and I'm moping around in bed, the opportunity for me to get in my head about things, for then me to then beat myself up about not getting up out of bed, and then I resort to food and I'm snacking on shit that I shouldn't be snacking on. I mean, not that I shouldn't be, but excessively snacking on shit, and then it just...
And it's so much harder to do when you're pregnant too, because I honestly I remember this phase of pregnancy where, like, it felt like only I was pregnant and the whole world wasn't, because it was like no one is in my body.
Well, even I find at the gym, like I'm at the gym and
no one's pregnant.
Yeah. And like I feel, like I literally said to Josh the other day, I was like, I feel like everybody is looking at me. And Josh being Josh was like, yeah, because you're a sexy motherfucker. But like in that moment, I was like, I wanted to scream from the rooftops, just being like, yes, I am fucking pregnant. Take a fucking picture, you know?
It does feel like that. There was a stage there where I was wearing like, you know, outfits where you could see I was very visibly pregnant, and it was the stairs, and it was like, I think sometimes too as well, this goes into the whole like, you know, negative thinking pattern and process, that we really are somewhat default to the negative. So we default to like people are thinking bad things.
Do you think that's a cause of society?
And it's fear-based as well. Like I was talking, that even when we wrote the caption this week talking about it, the deep cause of negative thinking actually comes from a protective, like an instinctive thing. So it's actually basically
coping mechanism.
Well, you're trying to protect yourself from harm. You're trying to
bless you,
prevent. My dog's just gone on a massive zoomie around the backyard. You're trying to protect yourself from harm. You're trying to prevent bad things from happening. And so from a brain chemistry perspective, it's a survival. It's instinctive. However, absolutely, it's become very much societally driven and almost fueled. You look at the news, you turn on the news, it's all fucking negative, you know, and it's all fear-based. Like with the interest rates change that happened, it was like, if they decide to do it, and oh, what's it going to mean? It's just all this because, you know, like negativity sells, and it keeps people in a position where they're fearful, they don't take control.
Like, the economy's fucked, everything's so expensive.
It's not actually that fucked.
Everything is expensive.
It is expensive,
and I rant and rave about like
cost of living.
I spent like $13 on eggs the other day.
Groceries, our grocery bill has gone from being like I think it used to be like $2.20 roughly, like, and obviously we had a baby. Who was eating all of this food? My kid just looks up at me like, what?
She's like, hi,
it's me.
I'm the problem.
Just all the fucking berries. Toddlers eating berries. God damn it. And they're just so cute. Anyway, but like it's gone from like $220 to like $300.
Josh and I are lucky to. Our budget is $300, but we spend.
That's wild. Because you keep getting more.
That's the thing. Like, over the course of the week, I went last night. Just
picked up a few things.
Yeah. $60 later.
Yeah, and you're like, God damn it. Yeah. So like it is in a day and age, especially in even like Western society. I do think that, you know, it's interesting. The happiest country in the world. I'm totally off track here.
Third world countries.
Is the happiest countries in the world, yes, technically, third world countries, because nothing fucking bothers them. But there's a country, I don't know exactly which country it is, but there's a country where they have no access to technology or phones, and they have reported the highest levels of happiness in the world.
That's nuts.
And it's because they've been doing this for thousands of years, where they've not let any sort of outside influence come in, and not in like some like, you know, like Hitler way or anything.
You will not
I can't remember
see the outside. We are a cult.
I think it's Nepal or something, or somewhere close to that. But it's really interesting, and people go to the country and everybody is smiling.
Yeah. Okay.
And
see, I feel like that's nuts.
Yeah, but I really do think it's easy for us to fuel our negative thoughts because of lots of things. Because we've been talking at length in the last couple of days about this. Pressures on women, pressures on us as coaches in the fitness industry.
Do you know what's really sad too is that literally when you just said to me that like everyone's happy and everyone's always smiling, my first initial thought was, gosh, that would irritate me.
Are you part of the problem, Chloe?
I am part of the problem, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's how sad it is to think about. Like,
But a lot of it does come from, we even see other people happy and then we kind of get a bit negative and we're like, you know, like, oh, what are you so happy about?
I think just obviously being in the point that I am in pregnancy and like, you've reached that point.
Yeah, you're irritated and you're over it.
And hormones are like, I'm either crying, I'm laughing, or I'm really fucking angry.
I'm really glad that we're not spending every day together at this point. I'm fearing for my life.
And 9 times out of 10, it's crying.
Nice.
Or really fucking angry.
Yeah. It's hard. And you know what? When you're in the thick of it and you're in the middle of it, you can't control it.
Yeah.
Like you can, but you also can't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do remember this.
It's got a lot of relation to obviously what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And like, there's ways in which
that pull yourself out of it.
I can't necessarily control my hormones
in
the instance that I'm in.
Yeah.
But the way in which that I can handle it from after my mentee B is how you move forward.
Yeah, I like that. It's not even necessarily about not having negative thoughts, because I think that's the thing that people kind of get stuck on, is they think like,
I must be happy all the time. Yeah.
Oh, Coach Maya must be this like super optimistic human being, and
you're like, no. Little did you know, I actually cried in the shower for about 3 hours this morning.
Twice. I think it was the start of last week. I cried, and I haven't cried in months. And as you're saying, like, you know, because I've just been so sleep deprived and not getting better from sickness, being sleep deprived.
Rocked.
And it's like, you know, different challenges, of course, but I guess like how do we recover from this stuff? Because it's funny, people see us like, we occasionally talk about it. As I said, I encourage you, like, talk about it. People like the relatability. But how do we recover from it? And as you said, it's more about what you do after it, rather than necessarily trying to quash the negative
It's
feelings.
like the saying, when you're sad and you listen to sad music.
Just brings it out of you.
Well, not only that, it's like, I'm going to encourage myself to be more sad.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, I'm really sad. I'm going to play some music that I know makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Makes me happy. Makes like uplifts my mood. I think that comparison, like, yeah, obviously I understand. I'm guilty of it. Like if I'm having a good cry, I'm like, oh my God, Sam Smith. But then my playlist being my playlist, next minute I'm listening to like freaking country and happy screamo shit, and then, but like, you know what I mean?
There's a lot of things that can pull you out of a mood, and I think you're the only person who really knows how to do that. And whether it be, for example, because I've heard a lot of, you know, like, you need to be able to love yourself enough to pull yourself out of a shit episode or whatever, or a struggle point. I disagree. I think you need to be able to love yourself enough to know what tools and who you can trust and who you can reach out to. And like, I know that you talk to me and you talk to your mum, and you obviously talk to Josh, and you've got other friends as well.
No.
I'm not the only person voice recording you back and forth every day. But there's just this huge part of like knowing who you can your people
fall
are.
back on.
Yeah. And also just knowing that like when you show vulnerability, that person may challenge that vulnerability a little bit and be like, well, you know what, you're being a dick to yourself a little bit here, but will then also show compassion and empathy.
Yes.
Because in the moment when you're feeling poo-poo, sometimes you actually really need a pick-me-up, but then sometimes you kind of need also the other side
And
of
see,
it.
I know personally within my circle, if I want logic, I go to Josh.
Because he's a dude. Yeah.
If I want sympathy, I go to like you or mum or like...
You get a combo of logic and sympathy with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is... No, Mariah, back to empathy.
But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you find...
Yeah.
And like, I feel like you really have to ask yourself, okay, what do I need in this moment?
That's right.
Do I need someone who's going to be like, all right, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. Or do you want someone that's going to sit you down and be like, I'm really sorry you're going through that.
Yeah.
Like, how can I help? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
It's super important you do that. Because sometimes that feeling of when someone says it's okay, I get a bit choked up when someone says to me it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel angry.
Yeah, no, I've always been an advocate for that. If someone ever reaches out to me and they're like, hey, look, I'm really struggling, and I'm like, valid. Like,
So the first step, could we say like collectively, the first step to turning a negative thought, emotion, thought, whatever,
scenario.
into eventual positive change is possibly recognizing, accepting that you feel shit, and accepting the negative thought, grabbing it, viewing it, and going, okay, cool, like this is a negative thought.
Even if it helps you writing down.
Yeah.
You're being able to visually see.
Vocalize or,
Okay.
verbalize.
Like a voice. I know, as bad as it is to say, our phones have so much technology, smartness, shit. You could literally be like, hey Siri, don't. But like, hey Siri, write a note, and then just blabble.
Yeah.
And that way you have it there as well. And it also means that when you then, if later down the track you're having that same emotion and feeling, you can then reflect back on your notes and be like, fuck, I was feeling that only a couple of weeks ago. How did I navigate through that? Like,
what do my days look like after that? You'd be surprised too when you go through the process I wouldn't say like sharing a problem, but certainly sharing how you're feeling with somebody else as well. Like connecting with someone is so hard to do. And like, honestly, it happened to me the other day. I was just talking to a girlfriend. We were meant to catch up. I was so unwell. And I was like, I'm not the person you want to catch up with right now. And she's like, what's going on? And I kind of just went like, bleh, like word vomited. And I was like, man, I haven't done that in a long time.
I did that to a client.
Yeah. And it does happen sometimes, especially if the client is like, tell me everything.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're kind of like, okay, I'm just randomly in this position. This person seems to be well receiving. And you try not to do it too much. Or at least I try not to.
Yeah, neither do I.
And it's like, but then you're like, it's off my shoulders. The person doesn't seem to be kind of firing too many solutions at you. They're kind of like a little bit of solution here, but a lot of empathy. And you can kind of move forward weirdly enough, and you feel like you've kind of cleansed yourself. And
if you don't have that person, I feel like that's where it's good to utilise things like notes and
social workers.
like
Literally,
there's hotlines and
they're worth
things
their
like
weight in
that.
gold.
Yeah.
You could literally call. I know it sounds, like calling Lifeline, but I did when I was a kid a lot because I was really mentally troubled. Quite young. I was like 6 or 7 calling Lifeline a lot. I just wanted someone to talk to. And it feels like, maybe even for some of you listening to this podcast, this nice, warm hug. It feels so nice having that just kind of like melt over you when a person is being like, hey, I see you,
I hear you.
I love you, I value you. And that's why I sent you that message yesterday, just being like, hey, you are valued, you are fucking brilliant, don't doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's times when I need that. Like I really need someone to validate you're doing a really good job.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
And you just never know what's going to come of that then.
No.
Positive change can't just come out of fucking thin air.
No.
We don't just wake up one day and be like, I'm just super motivated for some reason.
I mean, if you do, fucking kudos to you because
You've
I don't
had
know
too
how
much
you do
coffee.
it. I'm literally rolling out of bed going, I need a pee.
The amount of times you get up in the middle of the night as a pregnant woman is like, I'm not even sleeping.
I'm not actually too bad. I
Horrific.
don't think I drink enough water. That's my problem.
Okay. I'm chronically dehydrated and I'm happy.
I specifically don't drink after
hold
9
off.
p.m.
Your baby's just like...
She's in there like...
So the first step is acceptance,
Yeah.
acknowledging, and maybe the second is like reaching out somewhere for tools, something to get it on paper, to whatever, verbalize, get support, there's just so many avenues. And it's difficult to go from zero to doing that without the acceptance of the negative emotions, thoughts /
You have to be honest with yourself in that moment and being like, fuck, okay.
It could be anything. It could be literally like my feet are sore. It could be, your feet are probably sore. Chloe's like, don't even talk to me about symptoms. It could be anything. You could literally like, what's a negative thought I had today? Okay, so my daughter, it's always fucking sleep for me, honestly. We were meant to be doing shifts with sleep. And Alex was meant to have her for the whole night.
Yeah.
That didn't go to plan. 3 o'clock, I was already awake because for some reason around 3 my body clock just gets up. But he like brought her in and was like, take her. And I was like, okay, all right. He's like, I can't. I was like, it's all good. And I was like, clearly this needs to happen. So I took her. Anyway, there's no surprise. We co-sleep. It's pretty known from the fact that my kid is always in my bed. She's 11 months old. She won't die. It's okay. Now I'm going to get messages.
Yeah, being like, don't co-sleep. Stop it. Look, read this out.
I would love to not co-sleep.
You're like,
This kid loves her cot during the day and obviously loves mummy and daddy snuggles at night. And she takes up the entire bed, so there's no chance that she's getting
It doesn't get
smothered.
any better. It wasn't until Sienna was probably like 4 or 5
that she got out of your bed.
that it was like she would fall asleep fine in her bed, but then like creep in at the middle
Yeah,
of the
literally
night.
comes in anyway.
And then she sleeps parallel.
Or kicks you or, And for anyone who doesn't know already, I have a very tall daughter. So my daughter is the height of a 2-year-old at the moment. Literally on paper is the height of an average 2-year-old.
Nuts.
And the weight of a 2-year-old as well. So it's, when we're giving out Panadol, give this to your 1-year-old or your 10 or like 8 kilo or whatever baby. And I'm like, doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So, awkward. Anyway, long story short, brought her in and I was like, really fine to do it in the moment because obviously in the moment you can see like the tap in tap out with parents where like you're like, no, I got this, it's all good. By like 6 o'clock I was like, oh fuck this shit.
You're like, I am tapping out.
I was like, roll off the bed. No, I didn't do it, but I was like, get away from me. You have kicked me more times than I would like to tell people. And I was just so exhausted. I woke up and I was like, oh, I don't want to do today. I just want to go back to bed, but I can't because I've been awake for too long and I can't get back to sleep and I've been awake too long.
Yeah.
It was like really negative, like,
Yeah.
you know, my whole day's ruined basically, and like nothing's going to go well from
You just
here.
look at her and you're like,
She was gone by that point. No, she was a daycare, thank God.
you are the reason.
I love her so much though. Like, she's so cute that like, no amount of sleep deprivation will ever replace the fact that
You're allowed to be irritated.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, and like that's parenting. There's moments where you like internalize
You
it so
literally
deeply.
just want to like, I mean, I would never literally do this. No one call CPS on me, please. But like, pick them up and just go.
Or chuck them out the window. Yeah. Do you know what though? The conversation I've had with so many mums is like, you know, and I won't say who they are because privacy. But the amount of mums who are like, I want to put my kid in the bin.
I think when Sienna was probably like a couple of weeks old,
You're like, I'm going to do it. Put her in the bin.
I literally yelled at her.
Oh.
I was like, what do you fucking want from me? I was like, I will put you in the bin. And then it wasn't until, or like even, I think a situation happened at the shops not that long ago. And Sienna was being a brat. And she turned around and I was like, I will put you in the bin.
Yeah.
Like, and I said it quite loudly. And there was lots of people around me and they just look at me like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm kidding.
But if you're a fellow mother, like, you know, when another mother has got to that point, or father
tether.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like it's useful having a partner because you've got that tap in, tap out.
Yes.
Usually Alex gets really frustrated around meal times with the baby.
Yeah, okay.
And so I tap in because like I'm pretty good at tolerating food flying everywhere.
I don't know how you do that.
He's not, because I had an eating disorder and I was a bulimic. So I'm used to like, it sounds weird, but like food mess. And for me, I've really repaired my relationship with food and didn't have a good one growing up. So going off on a tangent, but yeah, tap in, tap
It's our
out.
podcast, don't listen to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you don't like
want
a dime, fucking tune in.
I didn't click in this to listen to this shit.
This is about being positive. Anyway, so we're getting there. God. But I'd started this day so negatively. And it is very, as parents, I'm going to say it's very easy to do that. Because when you don't have kids, you don't have the influence of another human being, literally example A, in, you know, completely consuming your life, taking over every moment.
Even if you have pets. Like Nala's at our door crying at 5:30 every morning to be fed.
Yeah. Our cat scratches at the door and meows to the point where I have to wear earplugs.
Yeah.
It's
so, like, even if you're not a parent and
Yeah.
you have animals.
You're technically still a parent. You're
Or
a
even
fur baby parent.
if you're, like, not any of them.
Yeah.
Fucking the birds outside at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it can start with anything. Or it could be that you got a phone call from your mother-in-law and she was patronising. It could be that your boss is being an absolute CUNT. Sorry, Chloe, if I'm a CUNT.
I'm like, that's every day. No, I'm kidding.
Thanks for that.
I'm kidding.
But
don't
yeah,
fire me.
nervous laugh. But it's like, it's those moments where, like you're influenced by your negative thinking patterns and you've got to somehow, you don't have to, but it would be beneficial to turn that bus around, right? And to go like, no, I've got control, I can do this. You don't go from 0 to 100 though.
No.
Acceptance, reach out for support, or it could be for me like, I find it really comforting to help other people when I'm not doing well.
Yes.
It's pretty toxic actually, but it's like,
I'm going to not fix my own shit. I'm going to go help other people.
I'm not going to face my own problems.
Yeah.
I'm just going to face everyone else's instead.
See, I'm like shut down.
Yeah, I know you do.
Like, I don't.
And I hear Ian popping up. I'm like, hello, hi,
You can't ignore me. Like, I isolate.
I send you bulk reels and messages, and then I'm like waiting for you to respond.
Yeah, you're like, come on.
Hello.
A little tee won't hurt. No. But like, I'm.
Do that,
Like,
you do.
A lot of people will be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. I'm like, yeah, and?
It's a really dangerous position to be in. Like, yeah, honestly, I tend to, focus on everyone else's problems and you disappear. I also disappear from socials. So like we've been talking about this.
Yes.
I tend to not post as much on social media, but the weirdest thing as well, it's usually when I'm really busy too. So don't get it mixed. Like sometimes I'm perfectly fine, but I'm just like, I don't have fucking time to do this today.
And like, I guess for me, like as a coach too, like I would never isolate to a point where like my work doesn't.
Is impacted. No.
Yeah.
We still show up for other people. That's one really important thing I think for us. And it keeps us grounded too. Like for me, if it wasn't for my clients, probably wouldn't get out of bed some days.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think I isolate to a point, like, for the people that I am closest with, like, obviously, like, mum will be like, all right, hello.
Are you still alive? Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, even Josh.
Yeah.
Like, he'll come home and I'll be like...
He's like, oh, yes.
He's like, what have I done? He just walked in the door and I'm like...
Yeah.
You know?
You kind of just as well, like, it's hard when you're going through those negative emotions because you kind of want to be alone with them, if that makes sense. It's almost like wallowing in your own shit.
And do you know what? I think it stems from my childhood and my anxiety because a lot of the thoughts that I used to have, like, you're in that fight or flight motion all the time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my reactions were flight.
Yeah.
Right? And that is my way of...
Coping.
Escaping.
Yeah.
It's just... If I don't recognise it, it's not there.
Both a bit toxic.
Yeah.
I used to be a fight person. I used to be a person
Like
who
what?
would... Yeah, like if something pissed me off or upset me, I would, like, start a full-blown argument or go on a big rant on social media. As I've gotten older, it's been less apparent and I've been a bit more like flight, like disappeared, don't talk about it, don't whatever. I think it's just probably more to do with the fact that, like, it takes energy and I feel like my plate is always so stacked that I'm like, I can't afford a breakdown today. I can't afford to have time off.
Well, like, that's what I struggle with sometimes, like, especially with my mum. So mum is guilty of sending 16-page novels.
I also do that.
Yeah, but you like, she asks
She'll send it and then she won't wait. She'll send another one.
She'll ask about 30-odd questions within that novel. And then if I don't reply within, like, 5 minutes, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you not responding to me? I
That's
love
right.
my
We've
mum.
got polar opposite mothers. My mother disappears for like a month and then
I
randomly
love
says
my
she
mum.
loves me.
But then I look at that and I go, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I'm not even going to...
Overstimulated too much, yeah. And that's fair. Like, honestly, on this topic, like, on the side of negativity and going through all these emotions, experiencing this stuff, this podcast isn't about saying don't do that.
No.
You know, don't have bad feelings.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to. Like, there's going to be something that's going to piss you off. There's going to be something that's going to make you upset. It makes you human.
And if someone comes to you, and this really grinds my gears, when someone tells you not to feel that way. If someone says,
Just get over
don't
it."
worry about it.
Yeah, it's
Was
not that
it?
big of a deal.
Oh, leave it. Oh, don't worry about it. You know, just don't listen to them.
Like, I've already listened to them.
Can't close my ears off. It's in my head.
It's already consumed me.
Yeah. I'm already obsessing over it. Yeah. But honestly, part of this podcast is also really inspired by a podcast I listened to yesterday by not Meryl Streep. Geez, who am I thinking of? No, not Meryl Streep. She's an actor. What's the other one? The older lady? Anyway.
Some lady.
A lady that's...
Must have been really memorable for you because you remember her name.
The podcast was about how to... It's not really related to this, but kind of. How to not want to control everything all the time. And it was talking about how, like, if someone wants to do something, just let them.
Yeah.
If someone wants to do this, just let them. And it was so eye-opening for me because I was like, I do often do that where I try and fix people or whatever.
Control the
situation, control the narrative, help them, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it got me thinking with, like, you know, a huge part of not being able to find the positive of anything or to find a positive way out of something or to get yourself into good habits like with your training or your steps or whatever is because you're feeling these negative emotions and you're expressing them to people who are not well receiving, or you're doing it to yourself where you're going like, I'm not allowed to have these feelings, or, you know, I'm having these feelings and therefore I'm always a piece of shit and therefore I'm kind of, you know, stuck in this forever cycle of piece of shit. I'm still
sad,
a piece of shit.
I'm always going to be sad.
Yeah, and this, like, it's just, you're in this negative loop, right? So what we're trying to reference here is, like, this loop happens, but it's kind of like an infinity symbol. And it's like negativity can come around to a positive resolve, even though if it's not a solution, it can still move that around. And, like, you'll go through that positive loop and you'll probably come back to a negative one at some point.
It's a massive cycle.
Yeah. You have to be able to feel the good in life, you have to feel the bad.
A saying from years ago that stuck with me is you give a shit and you care about something, like when you have, like, either a negative or a positive reaction.
Yeah, an extreme emotion, yeah. means you
care, and there's nothing
wrong with that.
Makes you a human.
So you go through the negative emotions, you acknowledge them, you see them, you move through them, you get the support, you talk to the right people, whatever it might be. In somewhere in here, it's also changing internal dialogue. Mm-hmm. So this is where we start to see the shift of it's not so bad, like as in it's not so bad for me at the moment or whatever. Mm-hmm. Maybe the intensity of that feeling has started to move.
Well, I like to tell my clients that are going through hard times, right, you're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
You're at the bottom.
Yeah.
The only way.
Yeah. Where are you going to go from here?
Is up.
Yeah.
Like shit can't get, like you've been faced with adversity, right? Mm. And the only thing that you can do now is
shift.
Get up.
Yeah. And the only way that you're going to create momentum is with movement, right? So it's like a rut that I had myself stuck in for quite a while postpartum was I've been at home all day with the baby, and obviously you were here as well, had help, but like I wasn't getting out of my house, I wasn't doing much. I was just working on my laptop, I was doing housework, as well, like we were both kind of, doing things, looking after the baby back and forth.
I feel like as well you didn't really want to leave the house either.
No, I was trapping myself. Yeah. Because I felt like I needed to be here to be a good mum. I needed to stay in the house, and also it's from years of comfort as well of like,
homebody.
Yeah, like, I'll just stay here because it's convenient, or, everything's
the hassle
here.
Of getting out and blah, blah, yeah.
Anxiety as well. I get huge anxiety with leaving the house. It's actually really strange, but I get really like...
Well, I remember after the Sydney
even just thinking about leaving, I'm like getting anxious.
Yeah, like I remember after that Sydney situation where Sydney, where the guy was going around the shopping centre.
The stabbing?
Yeah. Like I remember you were like, yeah, no.
And I went for a walk one night and I kept looking behind me all the time. Like, it's really strange. People probably don't even really realise I have this severe anxiety of like...
Going out.
My dad, doesn't listen to my podcast, doesn't matter, had what we would say would be agoraphobia when we were younger. Mm-hmm. Had a lot of fear of public places, lots of people. Mm-hmm. And you would think as like social media, like, like I wouldn't be afraid of that.
But that's different, right?
I get so scared going to shopping centres. I get scared parking in like... busy parks.
It makes me anxious too.
Oh, my heart just goes a million miles an hour. I don't like going to busy places where people can make lots of eye contact with me. So if you want to talk about gym anxiety, like we can go back to that. But anyway, long story short, I was stuck in this rut, and I wasn't really washing myself clean of that, where I was like, you can go for a walk. Yeah. Your daughter is in childcare. You can leave the house. You can go to the post office. You can... go get your steps in. You can, like I'm going to do it this afternoon after the podcast, right? You can leave. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep working for the day. You can sign off. And where it all starts is that conversation that you have with yourself, that narrative that you keep telling yourself. It starts with challenging that narrative, like literally facing it head on.
Well, I even look at like the situation I was last night. I had gone all day rotting in bed. And like I have been very, very good at the moment of getting out and going out.
You really have, yeah. Better than I was in pregnancy.
Yeah.
Not to compare, but like I did not walk a lot at all. Yeah. And you've been going nuts. Yeah.
And over the past, probably since the weekend, I didn't really do it. And yesterday I was really bad. I was really in my head, and I was like, I cannot be fucked to go for a walk. But do you know what I can be fucked to do is go to Kmart.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
I literally threw on my shoes and went for... I didn't buy anything from Kmart.
Just walked around.
Yeah. I literally just walked around and I got like 3,000 steps in.
It's really interesting what you did there. So that was a situation of doing the thing that made you feel uncomfortable, or where you were like just mentally not there. You compromised and you substituted for something else. Yeah. Which was fine for your headspace. Yeah. Which is just so awesome.
Yeah. And it's not like my hour-long walk that I normally would get, where I get up. Like I probably will do it today. Well, I'll try to anyway. Yeah. But I was like, at the end of the day, I've ticked 2 things. I've gotten out of the house and I've got some movement in.
Yeah, wow.
And I was like, win-win. I mean, kind of shitty that I walked out and came up with nothing. Because at the end of the day, that's just sad. And
yeah, I was going to say, how the fuck did you do that?
Nothing, was just...
Jumping out at you?
Or it was like, I was even like a bit overwhelmed. I was like,
Too much.
there's some,
Kmart, chill out.
yeah, there's some really nice pieces in there at the moment. And I was like,
This is from Kmart.
yeah, like clothing wise.
Oh, clothing. You're looking at clothing. Yeah.
Nice clothes in there. And I was just like, oh, I could try that on, but nah.
Yeah. And because you knew, like, the hidden agenda was to get your steps in. So it's like, it's not like you were actually going shopping.
Yeah.
That is a perfect example of taking a negative thought pattern, process, how you were feeling, whatever. And obviously we talked at length yesterday as well. You talked to your mum, you got some feelings out, like you just went fucking, that's it, like this is out, I've got it out. And then it's almost like you went, okay, cool, well look, I don't really have the energy for 110%, but I've got the energy for 50 or 60. And that is way better than, you think about it, you could have ended that day a lot worse than you did. And you really did turn that around.
Yeah.
And you should really be proud of yourself for that.
I went a bit exhausted, but
Did you sleep okay?
I think so. I don't know.
No one ever sleeps well in their third trimester. Insomnia strikes again. So yeah, I guess like in short, really turning negative thinking around. And I really do challenge a lot of people out there. If you're going to jump in my inbox or you're going to jump into a consult call, because I've got a few consult calls the next few days. I've had so many inquiries coming through since we've been just talking a bit more about motherhood, which has been awesome. Loving it. But if you're going to jump into conversation in a consult call, please know that we will always acknowledge your struggle. We will always be okay with you being like, hey, you know, I found it really rough because of X, Y, Z. You know, we're not going to patronize you and be like, that doesn't exist. Like,
You're like, oh, is that it?
oh, what? You got 6 kids? What? Like, I'm going to be like, holy shit, man.
I'm going to be like,
Do you
how
do
do you
that?
function?
Yes, I'm so proud of you for even being here with us still.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're going to jump in a call with us, if you're going to jump on a consult, please know that we will actually, weirdly enough, naturally take you through that process.
Yeah.
We will acknowledge your feelings. We will let you feel them. We will then talk to you about ways that you can move through those, and maybe even you can talk to us a little bit. We're not psychologists, but, you know, if it's surrounding nutrition, training, lifestyle, of course we're going to try and work back and forth between and go like, hey, is that really... Do you think that's actually true, or is this just the way you're talking to yourself right now? Can I challenge you on that? Can you take some photos of yourself, but maybe if you don't want to show me, you don't have to, you just take them. You know, that type of stuff. Well, we will push your buttons a little bit, and we will always try and shift you back to positive action and change. And what we're actually subconsciously doing is trying to teach you how to do that yourself.
Yeah.
We're trying to get you to a point where you can take yourself from rock bottom, as you said, to sky high. And you know what? You're not going to stay there.
I was going to say, you're going to sink.
You're not going to stay there. You're going to go down. It's okay. It's normal. If you think about it, we only really spend a few hours to a day at sky high. Do you know? And then we kind of go like this. That's normal. That's okay. That is life. That's how it's meant to be. Stop being so fascinated with the idea that life is meant to always feel really good. But hopefully that we drift back to that loop where it's the negative back to the positive, back a bit of negative, back to the positive.
The way I was just thinking, I was like, oh, I've had a beautiful day at the beach, but fuck, I'm sunburned.
Yeah.
And then like a couple of days later, you're like, oh, that sunburn turned into a tan. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
And it's like, oh, but I'm peeling a little bit and that hurts. And then
Yeah, yeah.
like, you know what I
Skin
mean?
everywhere and I got to clean it up.
Yeah.
You can always find the shit bits in life.
Yeah.
And I did a video yesterday. I did a video and never posted it because sometimes I'll often record myself and then be like, that sounds fucking dumb. I don't know, I just overthink it.
Negative thoughts, Mariah.
Well, it pretty much was a bit of a dump. And then, but it was like, I was basically saying like, sorry I haven't updated people, but this has been what's been happening. This is what's been great. This is shit. This has been, and I'm still not ready to talk about the really shit bits because I'm almost in a point of avoidance about some of it. This has been good, this has been shit, this has been great, this has been shit. And you're probably going to hear about it eventually when I'm ready. I always do that. I tend to go through...
You need to deal with it first yourself.
Fuck oath. Like, I'll go through something negative and you'll hear about it 3 months later. Like, I don't...
You're like, oh, little did you know I was actually...
A really big thing usually too.
Yeah.
And there's some really big good shit happening too, but I'm just not the person who kind of spits stuff out until I've gotten past it.
Yeah, you have to be over it.
I don't think anyone really wants to navigate a difficult situation with 1,000 people in their ears.
No.
We just need our people, and then when we're ready, we can open the floodgates and we can go, cool, like now I've dealt with it, now I'm happy to kind of receive some whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So, but please know that, yeah, we'll always help you move through, and like we help each other move through stuff. Chloe has been there for me through some really intensely very negative times postpartum. I really struggled with a lot of things, and Chloe was like, please be kind to yourself, because she saw me in the depths of postpartum, I'm going to say definitely depression and anxiety. It was huge. And I'm kind of slowly coming out of it.
Yeah, it takes time. And like I still find myself even 6 years later.
Yeah.
You know, you still have moments where I think as a parent, we will always question whether we're doing a good job.
And also too, like, when does this end?
Yeah.
You know, like there's always that thought of like, oh, you know, I've got to be a parent forever. I've got to keep showing up.
I'm never going to get a break.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah, you get the daytime breaks, but yeah.
But even in that moment, you're still thinking about them.
Oh, fuck oath you are. Yeah. What's for dinner?
I just remember when I was in the thick of it, I just felt so trapped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole other story.
It's something that is not spoken about enough, is that these really intense negative emotions can surface quite strongly for mothers.
Well, not only that.
And not just for not mothers as well, but
men as well, and fathers in the situations. Because obviously we have the hormones. Like they are such a contributing factor into the way that we feel.
But you're also carrying an entire human inside of you.
She's literally kicked the fuck out of me just before. That's why I was like...
And you're coping with so much. It feels, I would say, some days through pregnancy and postpartum, very difficult to see the silver lining, because you do feel consumed by like everything feels shit. So, but whatever you do, don't think that you can't feel the shit feeling. It's more that we're saying don't be consumed by it entirely. Don't let it eat you up entirely, because I see a lot of mothers out there who are like, I've completely lost myself, I don't know who I am anymore, don't look after myself, I don't prioritize myself, I don't eat well, I don't do this and this and this and this. And it's been as a result of, I would say, the reaction to the negative emotions and thoughts has been, this is my
plate, I'm gonna eat it.
This is it. Yeah. And I don't have any way out.
No.
And I feel trapped. And I feel stuck, and I feel unloved, and all of this type of stuff. So a lot of it has a lot to do with support, and this is why I think coaches are really crucial. I mean, how many women do you think we've helped? You know,
lots.
Countless women helped.
Yeah.
Go from rock bottom to sky high, and probably back to rock bottom a couple times. You know, it's not going to solve your entire life.
No.
But you would be surprised what you can accomplish with a shift in mindset. What actions will come of that?
Yeah.
You know, last night's Kmart trip.
Yeah.
Me getting 10,000 steps in a day for someone who does less than 3,000, just because I tell myself, I do have time for a walk, I can stop working.
Yeah.
Just those two sentences, and that I can change my narrative. Yeah. It all starts with you, hey.
Making that change and wanting to make that change too.
You really have to want to.
It's really tricky to... Like, if you're going to come to me and be like, oh, I feel like shit about this, and this, and this, and if I say, okay,
this is what we need to do.
We've gone through the process of, like, me recognising that for you and helping you and giving you advice, and a week later you're in the same situation.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And you're saying, I don't know why I keep doing this.
Yeah, and it's like, I am really... and you almost, as the person... giving the advice and listening and understanding, it's hard, because it's like, well, do you actually want to feel better?
Yeah.
Like you have to want, and I feel like that's an important step in recognizing that you're in
intent.
Okay, I can see that I'm feeling this way. I can see that I'm not necessarily helping myself in not getting my steps in the way that I talk to myself.
You've got to see your own self-sabotage.
Yeah. And if you're oblivious to it, then you're not going to see it.
If you take offence taking responsibility for less than ideal decisions, if you're a person who really struggles with acknowledging, I wouldn't say downfalls, but like your own self-sabotage, then you're not going to do shit.
No, nothing's going to change.
And you can stay in your unhappiness and your negativity, and you are not unlucky. You are purposefully perpetuating this cycle. And
like, I can understand sometimes, like, it's really hard to see the positive. Like, I even look at, like, a situation in where I'll say to Josh, like, oh, I feel really heavy and I feel really uncomfortable in the way I look. I'm so self-conscious. And he'll be like, babe, you're still beautiful. And blah, 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 you know?
Nice.
And then I'm like, nah, I don't see it. Nah. You know, and...
That's those deeper demons, yeah.
That's my own doing, right? And
but you can see that, though.
Yeah, I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I don't do anything in that situation to help change my mindset of the way that I view myself.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely, we're all going to have those push points and those little, like, for me, it's like time management in the morning as well. Like, I spend so much time talking to clients and then I'm like, oh, fuck, do I have time to train? It's always, I never end up with enough time for me.
Yes.
Because I'm just so invested in my business.
Yeah.
And so invested in like, oh, I could just do a little bit more. I could just do it. Oh, I could just make that phone call. I could just call RACQ and set that thing up and do this and whatever. I called RACQ this morning. So like we both know our weak points and our pain points. And it's good to be aware of them. We have to kind of keep chipping away at them.
Yeah.
I have to keep...
It's a process.
Yeah.
I think there's things in which that can be changed quite quickly.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then there's also things that take months.
Months and years, yeah.
Of hard work and like your eating disorder, for example.
Alcoholism,
that
smoking.
Takes a long time and a lot of this to get where you are. And there's probably still moments that you find now where you do this.
Oh, I still didn't eat breakfast till 11 o'clock this morning. And, you know, it's like still something I've got to kick.
Yeah.
But it's my last little part of my eating disorder that seems to come back.
Yes.
Everything else seems pretty good.
Yeah.
And also too, like, you know, like body dysmorphia, we could go on for fucking years about that. Here I am thinking this entire time that, like, you know, I've been on antibiotics and I've had something else going on lately. I think I'm due for a period. And I was like, I'm not going to weigh myself. I'm not. Anyway, and I was like, fuck it, Mariah, face your demons, because at the end of the day, like, you're only avoiding this because you think things are worse than maybe they actually are.
Do you know what's really sad is that before I step on the scales, I'll be like, oh, I'll put a couple of kilos on in terms of what I think I will be, just so that I can mentally prepare myself. Like, oh, okay, I'm less than that. It's okay.
Yes. That's what I did. I was like, fine, I'm going to be fine with like an extra 3 kilos. Like, it's all good because that would be what would be expected. Like, and we, you know, it is this, we're feeding that monster. Yeah. You know?
But, and then for me, I'm like yesterday I had a pretty bad day with my eating. Today I've been pretty bad. I'm like, the chances of me I will not be stepping on the scales tomorrow. No. You know, like, I will get back on track tomorrow for the rest of the day. Yeah. And I will give myself at least like 3-4 days.
Yeah. But that's self-protective measure as well. Like, that's part of turning this negative thinking stuff around too. Don't expect yourself to get yourself out of a negative spiral. Yeah. If you're then doing things that then add to the negative spiral, if that makes sense.
Right, I'm not going to weigh myself for a couple of days, and then tomorrow again I go and eat like shit, and I'm like, okay, well then let's put on another 3-4 days.
Right. Yeah. Give yourself some time and grace. Yeah. I had a massive pizza thing over the weekend, and I ate so much food, it was ridiculous over the weekend, because I don't know, I just was hungry. Due from a period, I think. Yeah. And like, there's no way I would have, you know, on Sunday I was like feeling a bit bloated, and you know. There's no way I would have stepped on the scale at that point. Like, there's some protective measures we've got to take. Yeah. And it's not necessarily, I think certainly if it's for prolonged periods, it's just pure avoidance. During pregnancy, it's different because you're growing a human. So it's like, avoiding the scale actually isn't a bad thing during pregnancy sometimes. Yeah. That's
Josh
what I think.
is like, why?
Yeah.
He's like, I guess for me, like, when I'm like, okay, well, I have to compare it back to Sienna's pregnancy.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
You've got nothing else to compare to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And, you know, the last 5-6 weeks of pregnancy, I didn't weigh myself.
Yeah, I won't be.
Because I caught up in it. That I said to myself...
Well, I was reading somewhere that apparently
you can drop weight.
No, apparently we put... Baby grows 250 grams every week from 34 weeks onwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. I thought it was the other way around.
No.
I had a friend of mine who she got to 36 weeks and then, anyway, she started losing weight. And I was like, what? But it doesn't matter. Because, but in the moral of the story is, like, you get to the end, you have the baby, you know, you have your baby, there is a baby that comes out. And at the end of it, you know, when you get your body autonomy back and you start to claw back some time for yourself as well, like, none of that fucking matters.
No, and like I think that's what
It's all temporary.
A lot of the thoughts that I've been having within this pregnancy and like the positive self-talk that I've been establishing with myself is that I've done it once.
Yeah.
I can do it again.
Yeah.
And I was far worse off last time.
Yeah. But we literally, I told you, someone yesterday who said, like, has Chloe had the baby? And you're like, what? She's like, yeah, she came in the other day, didn't even look pregnant. I was like, see? Like, I was like, you know, granted, like, you know, it's like, there's ways of concealing.
I wear these sorts of shirts and black. And
yeah. But that's what's comfortable for you in your pregnancy. That's what you feel fine with doing. And that's perfectly fine. Like, I do think that, as you said, like a lot of it stems back from that previous pregnancy and what you went through, and no one's ever to tell you how to navigate this one, how it's comfortable for you, what to do, yada, yada. But I think you've done exceedingly well, because I think certainly that like not just about pregnancy and babies and all that type of stuff, every woman will have negative thoughts about her body, about her career, everything. Like the list could go on about the shit things you say to yourself or that come into your mind on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how much strength it takes to pull yourself out of that. And if you can do that once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, doesn't matter. If you can do it once a week, whatever, like, please pat yourself on the back for having that strength, because good things come from good thoughts eventually. And, you know, it's
I
like...
still remember days where I would literally, like, being postpartum, being extremely overweight, I would roll out of bed, and just before having a shower, I would literally not look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And, like, just sob. And, like...
That was your rock bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, like, I would like to hope that it's not going to happen now. But also in the back of my mind, I've accepted the fact that probably will happen. You know?
Oh, that you'll have those feelings again. Yeah.
You know, like...
But you're not going to recognise yourself. Yeah.
No. And, like, that's just, unfortunately, part of the parcel.
That's pregnancy in general.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter, you know, look, there would be a very rare percentage of the population postpartum that come out and be like, everything is peachy.
Yeah.
Everything is back where it needs to be.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more going on than that. Yeah. I actually think mums are probably the queens of turning a negative shit day into a good day, or a mediocre day, or because the thing is too, we realise that we got to show up for our babies and our little ones too.
It's not just us that we need to show up for, it's for our
Never
family.
understood that until I had one in front of me, and I realised that like smiling is a part of their childhood, and being there and putting a smile on even when we don't feel
like
great.
How often do you feel like there's been multiple occasions. I've lost count of the amount of times where I've hopped into bed at the end of the evening and just sobbed because I was like, I feel like all I've done today is get frustrated and cranky with Sienna by no doing of her. Like, she's been a brat today, but I feel like I've taken no positive out of, like, I feel like
sometimes it's impossible to do if they're throwing shit at you.
My little niece actually gave my sister a black eye today from throwing a book at her face.
Love that.
I was like, gosh, aren't we lucky?
I got headbutt the other day and she split my lip open, and she also stuck her finger up my nose and made it bleed.
No.
Like
speaking of blood noses,
did this and took a chunk out.
I had one last night.
Did you?
Yeah, in the shower.
I had a couple during pregnancy as well, and it scared the shit out of me. I can't remember what the cause was.
I'm like, I'm dying.
Pregnant.
I'm dying.
I'm pretty sure it was actually a side effect of being on a medication. It was either my reflux medication or something for coughing. I can't remember.
I was going to say, I've had a bit of a like runny nose.
Yeah, it could be that. Could be that. Never know.
That's
Anyway,
off topic.
we persevere. We push through the shit times. We don't allow ourselves to become consumed by them, and we embrace the ebb and flow of negative. Shit's a part of life. It's always going to be a part of your life. If you try and fight it, it's just going to resurface somewhere else. Yeah. But to shift that to a positive place is to believe that you can, and that starts with you. I was going to say,
so process of getting through it is acknowledging, okay, I'm in this place. Then you have to be prepared and willing and wanting.
Yes, intent has to be there. Yeah.
Reaching out, someone.
Anything, support. Like planning,
notes, blah, 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 and then actually implementing it.
well, then there's the dialogue and stuff that goes with it, which is, I think, is definitely part of implementing change. The dialogue comes just before it. If you get that dialogue, once that dialogue's there, you can't shut it up.
No.
You're like, I'm going for a walk, like, you know what I mean?
I got to that point, like, literally, like, last week where I didn't even make it an option.
Yeah. Yes. Don't overcomplicate it has been my big one lately. Don't give yourself a chance. Don't give yourself a chance to talk yourself out of it, or an opportunity to say no, or that I can't, or that I won't have time, or that, you know what I mean? Just do it.
Yeah, like, I think for me, it's been like, at the moment, I'm like, fuck, it's not cool enough for me to get out there till like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then 6:30, 7 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, it's getting late, I'm tired. But I have to do it because I've told myself.
Yeah, it's a promise you've made to yourself. Yeah.
But
all right, guys, well, hopefully you found that to be a somewhat productive podcast. We did spend a bit of time on, I don't know why I keep getting phone calls. That's my fiance.
Alex is like, pick up the
bitch, pick up your phone. No, I'm busy. Yeah, hopefully that was a productive podcast. You know, I sometimes think that people come to our podcast and that, you know, expect these like magical answers, but a lot of
the only person that can change is you.
Absolutely. And honestly, I always harp on about this. You're going to have to start to see your life differently in order to experience it differently. Yeah. Your perspective changes your
I remember when I went through that really negative rut during prep and you were like, if you're going to keep looking at it this way, you're going to be in for a really shit time. And I was like, fuck, she's right.
So many times I have to thank myself. To be grateful for the position I'm in currently is where I would have wanted to be when I was a little girl.
I saw that on Instagram the other day.
I'm doing the trend. Having coffee with myself. I'm literally filming
but it wasn't the coffee. It was like something about like 13-year-old you looks at you now.
Yeah.
And it's in awe.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
And like part of me is like, fuck yeah.
It's easy to complain when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you look back at your struggles and who you used to be and how far you've come, and you know what, if you still think you haven't come that far, fucking do something about it.
Yeah.
It's your life, man.
Yeah.
You've got the opportunity. You've got
I mean, I used to be hot as fuck back then.
Oh, look, I was hot as fuck also. I have many wrinkles now.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm a beached whale right now.
You're pregnant. I've got wrinkles together. We've got the balance.
I was literally saying to Josh the other day, because I was like talking about weight and stuff like that. And I was like, I was actually heavier before I had Sienna. I was like, that's because I had a juicy fat ass.
Yeah. Look, we can't complain about that either, I suppose.
No. And then I got pregnant and...
Yeah, where did it go? Yes, the phenomena of the
disappearing
bum postpartum. Yeah. I've got to build it back.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're going to finish up. Hopefully you like the transparency. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback about the transparency from quite a lot of other mummies, which is really nice. And even if you're not a mum, like I'm sure our podcast will be really useful for you to listen to, because you know what? Hardest job in the fucking world. It really is, hands down. Didn't understand it until I became a mother, but it really is the hardest job in the world.